think we will go ahead and get started here since it's about 6:33. If everyone can just kind of mute themselves while we're have different speakers and stuff, that would be great. Thank you everyone for coming tonight. We have first up, get back to my agenda here. We've got a couple of different people presenting tonight. So first is Karen Stuart with Smart Commute Metro North. And she is just going to tell us what that is and what they're doing and how we can all participate in that. And then we have Alex Heath was second with our Global Greengrants Fund. She's going to tell us all about that organization and the great work that they're doing all over the world. And then we have Sonia Klein with the Wilderness Society, and she's going to tell us all about their 30 by 30 campaign. And then last we have Rosie Briggs, who we've had a number of times. So welcome back, Rosie, with EcoCycle, and she's going to tell us about current plastics legislation and different opportunities that we have to help out with changing things around the state. So I guess we'll go ahead and start with Karen, and I'm going to share my screen. And get your presentation. Here we go.
Great.
All right. You should be ready.
Right. Well, thanks. Thanks so much, Brianna, for having me. And as I was putting this presentation together to tell you about Smart Commute, I thought, well, how in the world did I get here? And maybe it would be interesting for you on the call to know how I got here. Many years ago, when I graduated from college, I met a man named Wes Jackson. And Wes Jackson was a professor from California who started a new kind of graduate program called the Land Institute in Salina, Kansas. And I happened to be living there at the time. And the Land Institute, and this is in 1976 or 77, was really about ecology and economics and how to save the planet, how to recycle, how to grow sustainable food, all the kinds of things we're doing today. But really fascinated by him, he came to talk to one of my classes. And so I did some graduate work at the Land Institute. And then when I got to Broomfield many years later and had small children, I ran for city council, and the year I was elected to city council in 1993, Boulder, and we were still part of Boulder County in those days, Boulder County put together a recycling and composting authority, of which Broomfield was a member. And because I was the newest council member, they gave me that job to attend those meetings. They didn't know how much that meant to me because it was right about what I was thinking about. And I became the chair of that organization. And I worked with Will Tour, who is now the Colorado Energy Office Director, and worked with Eric Lombardi. And those of you who know EcoCycle know that Eric Lombardi was like the father of EcoCycle. So that was kind of interesting. And now in today's world, I run a small transportation management organization with several very, very talented people. Our mission is to reduce congestion and improve air quality in order to give mobility options and encourage people to get out of their cars and try alternative modes of travel. And I'm also the chair of the Transportation Commission, 11-member commission appointed by the governor. And I'm saying that because I have a slide in here I want to talk to you about how transportation affects greenhouse gas emissions. Next slide, please.
Oh. I don't know how to make it go. There, I guess I just click it. Okay.
Okay, good. Just want to tell you who we are. So you see that great big light blue box, that's us. That's our territory that includes Broomfield. And then there are 6 36 other transportation management organizations in the Denver metro region. You can see 36 commuting solutions there adjacent to us, Boulder Transportation Connections, and all the way down, with all of us having the same mission. We're sister organizations, the same mission of reducing congestion and improving air quality. And we're typically funded by congestion mitigation air quality grants are dispersed through the Denver Regional Council of Governments Way to Go program. We also have a lot of other funding, but the large funding mechanism for TMOs is money that comes through to the metropolitan planning organizations. Next slide, please. This is our board of directors. It's interesting. We really work hard to try and get people from all areas. And so we have several elected officials on our board of directors. We have the McQueen Development, Kyle Harris on there. We have someone from Google and someone from United Power and someone from St. Anthony North, someone from Sustainable Broomfield, Craig Hebrink. We just voted him in as one of our ex officio members. And Joe Dudak, who is the general manager of the Amazon Den 3, that huge Amazon at 144th and I-25. And a couple of other people who represent engineering companies, the Economic Development Corporation and the Northwest Parkway. Next slide, please. These are our members, partners. All of our members pay a membership into being part of Smart Commute, and some of them do it because they believe in sustainability, or they want to know what's happening in the world of sustainability, or they have an interest in transportation, or it looks good on their homepage when they can say that they're working with Smart Commute to reduce congestion and improve air quality. But I think you'll see that there is a number of pretty important partners here, and we appreciate all of them. Under NATA jurisdictions, it's called the North Area Transportation Alliance. It's made up of 13 jurisdictions. Next slide, please. And these are the jurisdictions that are part of NATA, and all of these jurisdictions have a relationship with Smart Commute, and we provide services. All of our services are free, and we often go into businesses, employers, and help them with travel training. We do optimization travel maps. So we'll work with their HR, and they will help us figure out where their employees are coming from. And then we can find clusters of people who live in the same vicinity, and we can help them form carpool van pools. If we see that people live close to transit, we can do a transit plan for them so they can come in by transit. We have a lot of different options. And of course, we do a lot of community outreach. Last year, the first year that we've never done in-person community outreach, quite a challenge for us. This year, we're looking forward to some innovative kinds of community outreach. So we've been together about 12 years. I think we started the nonprofit around 12 years ago. And I was telling Brianne that I created the nonprofit for Smart Commute with the backing of these 13 communities. And it wasn't an easy task. So congratulations to all of you for getting your nonprofit status. Next slide, please. We'd like to tell you what we do. You know, we do a lot of different things, but we did a little graphic here that tells some of the stuff that we did in the last year. We help customers learn how to ride transit, particularly RTDs. So we spend time riding transit with customers, with people who are new to transit, don't know how to buy a ticket, don't know how to put a trip together. We have a new program called the Flex Ride, and it focuses on entry-level workforce, particularly at the corner of 144th and I-25. And when Amazon came in there with 3,000 jobs, a lot of people didn't know how to get there. And so we help with the shuttle. It's a grant-funded program. RTD is a member, and the local communities are a member. We do a lot of customer service calls. We handhold problem solving. We do a lot of mobility fairs. We do them both for government organizations, but primarily for employers. Last year, we were able to give out 855 free Uber rides through a partnership with the Denver Regional Mobility Access Council. And then you can see that we do a lot of hours advocating and promoting transportation options, a lot of employee meetings, and we try to make sure that we reduce single occupancy vehicle at the intersection of I-25 and Highway 7. There are 260,000 cars a day going through that intersection. That was pre-COVID, and now it's almost back to that same level, even though people are still working from home. So I don't know who's driving those hours in those cars, but it's not commuters going to work. Next slide, please. One of the other things we do is we try to make sure that we analyze and report back what we do. So we do a lot of interaction on social media. We do YouTube. We do five tips videos. We work really hard at what we do, and you can see that Smart Commute operates on a very small budget. Most of our system TMOs average around $602,000 a year operating, and we operate on $250,000. Next slide, please. This is something we do every year. This one says 2020 North Metro Commuter Survey, and we survey the different businesses that we're in. This year's pretty interesting. If you look at the top here where it says COVID-19, we were specific in asking people this year, when they did the employer service, how has COVID changed your commute? And you can see that there was a number of different things, but 48% that answered our survey said they are teleworking due to COVID. And it'll be interesting when we survey them this year to see if they've gone back or if it's a hybrid or if there's other things that they're doing besides teleworking. And 3 of the most desired policies when we asked employees, what would you like to see your employer engage in? One was a flexible work week schedule, which means, I think like Google told us, they will be doing flexible work week with 3 days remote and 2 days in the office, but the manager will choose which 2 days those will be. The other thing was transit pass program. Many of the employers we talked to would really love, the employees would really love their employers to buy a transit pass for them as part of their benefit packet. And that's sometimes a struggle here because we don't have adequate transit to all the employers that are in our vicinity. And then finally, opportunities to work a compressed work week, which many places do. So instead of 5 days a week, they do 4 days a week and 10 hours. Next slide, please. And then this one really tells the demographics of who we have. What improvements would encourage you to walk more, bike more, ride transit more, carpool more? And then we had some selected comments, but then we also look to see what are the demographics, what's the age, what's the gender, who respond to us and what their answers are. And we send this out to every employer, and then we individualize their commuter survey as well. Next slide, please. Okay, so this is from my hat as a transportation commissioner. And I think you probably have heard that the governor has put forth a huge effort in greenhouse gas emissions reduction efforts. And this is a slide we saw just recently at the Transportation Commission that shows the difference from 2005 to 2020, with transportation being the biggest greenhouse gas emitter. And I think in the wheel, it doesn't say this, but I believe that greenhouse gas emissions from transportation are now about 60%. So that's fairly significant. Next slide, please. So this year, we really worked on what was our goal going to be. And because the greenhouse gas roadmap has come out and it's tied to transportation, we've decided that the emissions policies and implementation is important to us. At the at CDOT, some of the actions we've talked about are indirect source standards from some types of new development, trip reduction requirements, requiring telecommuting for large employers, expansion of transit, front range rail, incentives for land use decisions by local government that could reduce pollution, with greater access to housing near jobs, a cleaning truck strategy, and you've probably been watching new revenue at the state legislature looking to fund some infrastructure and incentives to do some more electric vehicle charging and multimodal options like scooters and bikes and those kinds of things. So we thought at Smart Commute we should just mirror those kinds of things. We've been working on a regional bike network and connectivity. I see I spelled network wrong, netto, whatever. First and last mile strategies, which are sometimes difficult. We just recently got a grant for e-bikes. It's a loan to own program. And through Bicycle Colorado and the Colorado Energy Office. And we're just signing the contract now with them. And one of our goals is to get people who are in the workforce who don't have that first last mile connectivity could get one of these bikes loan to own. And I'll have more about that in the next number of months. And I'm sure Craig will bring back some of that information to you. And we really want to pursue nonprofit partnerships and grant opportunities. And that's why we've asked Sustainable Broomfield to be on our board. And then I should say that we're really good about producing transportation videos. We're working on here's how transportation works in the state of Colorado 101 videos. It's quite a challenge because it's very complicated, and all the funding mechanisms and where the money has to go and how you have to use that money. So in the future, I'm hoping that we'll have those videos out. And we're also doing some niche videos as well. So look for those. Next slide, please. This is my colleague, Tammy Harriet's artwork here. She is just a very talented person on our staff. We can always rely on her to come up with interesting stuff. And we generally promote the Denver Regional Council of Government's Bike to Work Day. And this year it decided to postpone Bike to Work Day from June until September. So we've decided to do a campaign called Bike to Summer campaign. And this is our logo. And this is the flyer. And we chose this, Tammy chose this because it looks more like our area. It's not a downtown, it's not people wearing spandex, it's, you know, it's not a whole bunch of mountains right in front of us. Really kind of looks like the Broomfield North Metro area. And so this is the artwork we're using for our program. And now I'll tell you about our program. Next slide, please.
You know, they say that it's important to stay hydrated.
Yes, absolutely.
If you guys can please.
Okay, our goals in our program. The goals in our program are really to encourage bicycle travel for the whole summer. And one of the reasons Bike to Work Day starting in June is always good. It gets people excited about biking, and the trails are open, the weather's nice. But since we're doing it since it's being done in September, we thought, well, we're just going to get a jump start on it. So we're going to start really in April with you guys. And then we're going to increase we want to increase the commitment to biking, including bike commuting outside of summertime. And we'd like to raise the profile of local biking opportunities and events, including your Earth Day week and a moonlight bike ride at the end of that Earth Day week. Next slide, please. Some of our strategies are this branded bike encouragement campaign like you saw. And we're thinking about some themed and targeted monthly events for individuals and groups. And we want to partner with local jurisdictions. We do partner with the city of North Glen. They have a Healthy North Glen program. And so we're working with them on their moonlight bikes. They do a moonlight bike ride once a month. And also Boone does moonlight bike rides as well. And so we're looking for opportunities where we can provide information, education, or swag in order to get people to participate. Next slide, please. And we'll use this promotional outreach really to the people who are, interested but concerned and enthused and confident bike community, not the people who ride every single day, whether it's good weather or bad weather or whatever. And we think that our enticing monthly themes will work, even if it's not us being in person to do it, because we've all learned how to use the internet so much easier and sign up for things and interact on the internet. It can be virtual, and we can have people sign up virtually and then come back and track what they've done. And partnering, I think I already told you this, North Glen, Brighton, Broomfield, Earth Day and Trails Day, those kinds of things. Next one, please. So April, we're going to launch it. We'll have some videos, promote some bike-friendly resources. And then through September, we'll have a monthly theme. We might have one large themed event. We'll promote as COVID allows us, whether restrictions are lifted or whether restrictions are still in place. This picture here is North Glen, a lovely little area in North Glen there. And then October, we'll do a wrap up. The September 22nd, I think, is the date tagged for Bike to Work Day. In October, we'll wrap it up and see what kind of participation we had. Next slide, please. So some of the tentative themes: I bike alone, I bike with friends, I bike with kids, I bike my neighborhood, and I bike to work. So we're looking at these as probably the themes for the months, and then we'll build a little program around each of those themes with resources that will work with that. So I bike with kids might have some how-to videos on how to be safe with kids, how kids ride wear helmets, those kinds of things. Next slide, please. And I think this is probably next to last slide. We have, I think I told we have swag and tchotchkes for prizes, and I just gave Brianna a carload of swag 2 or 3 days ago that we're happy to get. We're wanting to do a build a bike map display, probably something that will be put out on a trail where people can connect where connections aren't already there. So it's like Strava data or some of the other programs where you can experience it and go in feedback, and we can then look where connections need to be made through a larger region and not just community to community. And then make a wish for a bike encouragement. We would have several pre-written wishes, and then we would see how many jelly beans or how many coins or how many something each of those wishes get. And then we'd have people make pledges to ride and then come back and report them. I think you guys do either geocache or scavenger hunt or something like that. And we're going to steal Broomfield's passport that they did the last couple of years, and we're going to do a bike route passport with them that we will put out for people who want to participate in Trails Day on a bike route. All right. Oh, Gary Berlin, nice to see you. Gosh, it's great. I think the last slide is just thanks for having me. Thanks for having me. There's my contact, Karen.Stewart, smartcommutemetronorth.org. and my phone number. And I gave Brianna some links to some of the stuff I talked about. And I'm happy if you have time to take questions. I'm happy to answer questions. I think I might have gone a little bit over my time.
Oh, there we go. All right. So does anyone have any questions for Karen?
Karen, where's the best place to follow your events that are coming up? Is that on your website or is there another area?
Yeah, so we post those on our website, and Tammy's really good about social media, putting stuff out on social media as well. But once we have our events put together, I'll send it out to Brianna to disperse to all of you if that's acceptable.
Yep, that sounds great.
And
Great.
another question from me, I would like to bike to work, but there is one part of the road that prevents me from doing it. There is no really bike path. It's pretty narrow road. And I was wondering, where would I maybe email or call to kind of start a conversation on maybe adding a bike path somewhere around so I can get to a bus stop?
Yeah, that's a great question. So a couple of ways you can do that. Each of the jurisdictions are working on transportation master plans that in the last couple of years have included bikeways and trails. Used to be that bikes and trails only were recreational in nature. And I think what we've found is people really want to be able to commute to work. They want to commute from where they are. And so one of the big challenges in the Denver metro region, and particularly the North region, is to make sure the connectivity is safe. And you're saying exactly that. You can get on a bike and you can go so far, but then there's a stretch where it's not safe to do so. So you can look on your website of your jurisdiction, or you can send us a note and we'll follow up for you, whichever you'd prefer to do.
And where to send the note to?
Right. So you can send me an email, or my phone number is on there as well. And if you live in Broomfield, for example, you can send a note to the Open Space and Trails. They have a website that you can just interact with them, and you can tell them that you ride your bike and there's a section and you'd be interested in having that section completed. And I know when anytime those new transportation master plans are done, they look to see how they can fund those missing connections. So the more people that give them input and know the area and know that there's a need, the more likely your community, and I know Broomfield's really good about this, the more likely they are to investigate that and then try to complete that connection.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Awesome. Thank you, everybody. And yeah, if you're interested in Smart Commute, you can email them. There's a link in the chat at info@smartcommutemetronorth.org. And yeah, we're going to move on now. Thank you so much, Karen. We appreciate you taking the time. All right, so we have Alex Heath.
Thank you.
Yeah, with Global Greengrants Fund. So Alex, if you want to go ahead and get started.
Hi there. Can you hear me okay?
Yep. Thank you.
Hi. Yeah, thank you all. I really appreciate being here, and I apologize you can't see my gorgeous face. I have spotty internet, so I'm hoping that my phone will do it justice and y'all can hear me. But I am just so grateful to have been invited to speak a little bit about my nonprofit, Global Greengrants Fund, that I have the joy of working for. I was just going to take a quick few minutes to share a little bit of background, and my awesome friend Elise will play a video to kind of better articulate, I think, more fun to see something in action versus listening to me. But we have been around for 27 years. We are headquartered in Boulder, actually, but an international nonprofit. So we drive change by building the most effective movements for environmental justice. We believe that solutions to environmental harm and social injustice come from those whose lives are most impacted on a daily basis. So our network of people on the front lines and our incredible donors come together to support communities, to protect their ways of life and work to save our shared planet, all focused on environmental justice and defending human rights. So how do we do this? We trust the local people and to advance solutions and those strategies. This is a big component of our model. Instead of dictating how funds are spent from Boulder, we're really looking to the communities on the front lines, grant making in over 99 countries. So if you could zoom in for a moment and think about your favorite country, we probably grant there, and maybe a community that you have had the privilege of getting to know or just spending a day in. Think of it that way. We are supporting those incredible organizations and communities that have solutions to everything that is impacting them, right? Their livelihoods, cleaning up their waterways from big businesses coming through, sustainable agriculture, and making sure that their farmlands are taken care of, those sorts of things, and those important projects. So we trust the local people, and we work with them on their strategies that best fit their needs, provide them the resources to make their ideas a reality. And in order to do this, we work with a large group of advisory boards. So our advisory boards are tied to a region of the world. So you might think East Africa, the Pacific Islands, or more globally, a youth-led board. So youth leading youth movements. But we have 25 of them around the world, and they're helping us identify those grassroots groups with those solutions. They recommend the grants, they offer mentoring, technical assistance, connections, you name it. And each advisory board creates its own grant making strategy relevant to the geographic or the thematic context. So this past year rather, we granted nearly 1,000 grants in 99 countries, as I just stated, and we grant small grants. When we say small, we mean averaging around $5,000. There's quite a few that are smaller and quite a few that are a bit larger, but really noting that that amount of money goes a great deal, goes very far in the regions of the world we're grant making to. And I'm going to stop there and ask Elise if she might share the video to put this into perspective quickly for me.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thank you for that spiel and telling us a little bit more about Green Grants, Alex. I'm going to share my screen and then go to a video. I've tried this a few times and I think I got it down for how everyone will be able to hear it, but we're just going to see how it goes. So give me 1 sec. Can you hear it?
Nope.
No, you can't.
No, not really. We can see it, but not hear.
So you can't hear it when I'm playing it? Okay, 1 second. Okay. This one more time. I'm trying to figure out technology. 1 moment. Maybe I can take it off of my AirPods. Okay, gonna try this again. Sorry, I don't want to fail you, Alex. All right, let's see. Is it working now?
Yeah, that's great.
We're a community of donors, of activists around the world, of dedicated staff.
I come from Ghana.
From Lima, Peru.
South Africa. The Philippines. India.
From Nigeria.
An advisor for Chile.
In the Congo Basin.
We see ourselves as working together toward a common cause of environmental sustainability and social equity.
Global Greengrants Fund is one of the only organizations that has helped so many donors, from large foundations to individuals like myself, get resources directly to the activists on the front line.
We are funding grassroots groups, we're funding local solutions. We believe in the expertise of the people most affected by any situation.
These local organizations, they're defending their places, their rights, their livelihoods, their future generations, and they are really the best asset that we have for protecting the environment.
Grant making is always targeted to big international organizations, such that it's very difficult for small groups to have and express their own vision. Most of these big organizations subcontract small groups to do things instead of groups coming out with their own vision.
Global Greengrants ha tenido un gran impacto en el trabajo de las comunidades, el trabajo local que hacen por mejorar sus condiciones socioambientales, y finalmente es la única organización internacional que realmente está apoyando y soportando, porque es más que un apoyo, es un soporte.
In Mesoamerica, indigenous peoples there have gotten recognition for their role in protecting 40 million hectares of forest, and they're using that international attention to really advance recognition of the rights of their territories.
Find the grassroots all over the world, because the problems in one corner of this planet is eventually a problem for everyone, everywhere else.
Work of Global Greengrants Fund perhaps is even more important today than it was 25 years ago when it was first envisioned.
We need Global Greengrants Fund more than ever because the shocks of climate are worse.
They really have a sense of, what are the priorities, what are the issues that people are organizing around.
Global Greengrants is about risk, it's about values, and it's about trust. And we need to be able to keep that and strengthen that going forward in the next 25 years.
I really support its continuing for the next 25 years and longer, because unfortunately it's going to be needed.
Okay, so did that show up for everyone for a couple of minutes or so?
Yeah, that was great. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, thanks, Alex. I feel challenged. Now I know how to play a video with 20 plus people.
You did it. Thank you so much.
But that was awesome. That was very moving for me to see. That was the first time I've actually seen that. So any kind of like concluding or like comments you want to make after seeing the video, Alex?
Yes, thank you. You crushed it. So I really appreciate it. I just wanted to add that I hope the video made clear as well. We truly feel the real solutions to climate change will come from these communities, and they already are. And locally too, right? They're in Broomfield as well. But we have tapped into this wonderful network of incredible people across the globe who are just working so hard and putting in their time, their energy, but their deepest passions to save the planet here with us, but also across the globe. So whether you're talking about resisting fossil fuel development or protecting the work of traditional farmers in soil conservation, or the rights of indigenous peoples defending their forests, you name it, we cover it, which is why I feel so privileged to work for Global Greengrants. So I'll just close by saying, if you have any interest in receiving more info, just having even a quick chat, learning more, or have a suggestion for me, I'd love to chat with you. And maybe I'll just put my info in the chat box. And leave it for questions. And once again, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Alex. Yeah, that would be perfect if you want to put your contact info in the chat there. And do we have any questions for Alex?
Yes, Alex, this is Sheila. Is your group connected with various volunteer groups then? in a way where volunteers can go through Global Green Grants to get connected with various projects?
Yes, but we certainly are always looking for further suggestions. So were you thinking more specifically for you or others? Is there anything I can help kind of hone in on?
Mostly for myself and others that are close to me. Just if we see a particular project or grant that we think is interesting and not so far away, if there was a way to get involved, like on the ground.
Yeah, absolutely. So I can chat further with you if you and get you on the listserv too, so that you'd receive our newsletter and get those project updates. And then of course I could connect with you individually if I see something closer to home in Colorado or more specifically in Broomfield. So my suggestion would just be to add, if it's all right, yourself to our newsletter for the easiest way. And then of course you can have my contact info for that personal connection too.
Okay, I just signed up on your website.
Amazing. Thank you. So fast.
Yeah, so okay, so that would give me an idea and then I could reach out from there, right?
Yes, exactly.
Okay,
so thank
great.
you.
Thanks.
The wonders of technology. Anybody else have any questions for Alex?
Yeah, I do. I'm Patty Sullivan, and I've been active right now lobbying with 350.org. And I was just wondering if you do any coalition building to get some bills through that would, cut our greenhouse gas emissions, hopefully, right? Is at least take a stab at the oil and gas, divest our funds from TARA, the state pension plan, from oil and gas and things like that. It's 6 different bills. One has to do with plastic pollution, one has to do with TARA and divesting funds from oil and gas. And then there's 4 other ones. So I was just wondering if you do coalition building.
We certainly do. And actually 350.org is one of our awesome, wonderful partners. So we are already in communication with y'all, and our program director specifically works hand in hand with a few folks there. So it's an arm of what we do, and 350.org certainly is doing incredible work. So we just find ways to help amplify the advocacy piece. So yeah, it's more of a comment that we're already working with 350.org specifically. But if there's anyone else you think we should be talking to, I'd be grateful to know.
Well, I mean, there's a whole bunch of groups right now. There's like Mothers Out Front, there's like the Colorado Air Quality. Both the Mothers Out Front and the air quality one are both national groups, but Colorado has a Colorado group. But right now, the legislature needs to hear from us big time, get a lot of letters from people and things like that. And the people support the legislation. So right now we've been meeting on Zoom the last couple of weeks with senators and representatives. Those meetings have been going well, but have we met with everybody? No, not at all. And all of the bills are pretty heavy lift because they're quite a bit of change. But I feel a lot of change is needed. So
absolutely. Yeah. Do you mind whether you email me or share your contact info, and I can make sure I'm continuing to amplify that throughout the network as well as connect as Global Greengrants Fund?
Sure, absolutely. That would be great to add on, coalition partners, because there's Colorado Renewable Energy Society, but they have a whole list of bills that they're working on. And, I haven't even, unfortunately, had a chance to review everything that way. But I can put the bills in the window that we're working on, and I'll definitely give you my contact here.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Sounds good, Patty. Thank you. All right. And so I'm going to move on to our next speaker because we're running kind of behind here. So this might be another partner even, Alex, that you might join with. This is Sonia Klein from the Wilderness Society, and she's going to tell us about their 30 by 30 campaign. So go ahead, Sonia.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Brianna, for letting me speak. So I will share my screen. Can everyone see this presentation okay?
Yep, looks good.
Awesome. So my name is Sonia Klein, and I am a field organizer with the Wilderness Society's 30 by 30 campaign. And I'm based in Denver, but we're focusing our efforts along the Front Range. And yeah, I just got started after finishing up at Colorado College this past May, and I'm excited to be a part of this environmental movement, even though I'm from Connecticut originally, but I love Colorado, so I want to focus my efforts on the environment around here. So I will just get started. But before I fully dive into my presentation, it's beyond important to recognize Indigenous communities for their continuing stewardship of these lands that we are working to protect. We need to honor their sovereignty and respect their unique connections to and knowledge of these places. We're committed to being more conscientious and inclusive by working closely with the Cheyenne, Pawnee, Arapaho, Osage, Ute, Apache, and the innumerable Indigenous peoples and communities who have traditionally used these areas and who are connected to these lands today. So I will start sharing the Wilderness Society's critical work with you all tonight for the next 15 minutes or so. And I'll give an overview of what 30 by 30 is and why we've launched this campaign to increase local, state, and global conservation efforts. And then I will brief everyone on Colorado specific content and current legislative efforts, and then push this learning opportunity one step further so we can all take an action together tonight. So to get started with a little bit of background on the Wilderness Society. So we are a national organization working to defend the nation's wild public lands against rapid development, urbanization, and natural resource exploitation. And as you could read here, our mission is to protect wilderness and inspire Americans to care for wild places. And we will continue to fulfill this mission over the next 9 years and hopefully even further. 50 by 50 is the next big thing. But yeah, our pillars that we're focusing on are to make public lands a solution to the climate and extinction crises by securing a conservation network of landscapes and eliminating climate changing emissions, and also by transforming policy and practices so that all people can benefit equitably from public lands. And a bit about our history. We've been instrumental in drafting and advancing the passage of the Wilderness Act of 1964, if anyone can remember that. And we have been the primary advocate for every major piece of wilderness legislation enacted by Congress. And the Wilderness Society has long recognized that effective change originates locally and is led by individuals and organizations on the ground with unique knowledge and understanding of local circumstances. So over the years, we have helped to grow the National Wilderness Preservation System to over 110 million acres across the country, which is pretty cool. So why are we doing this? So our campaign is based in Colorado's Front Range. And like I said, although it's an international initiative, my focus has been in community and grassroots engagement in the major cities and towns in between them along the Front Range urban corridor. So scientists are urging us to set a national goal of protecting at least 30% of all lands and waters by 2030. That's why it's called 30 by 30. And this commitment has the wide and bipartisan support of 86% of Americans, according to a national poll. And as you can read on the slide, we are rapidly losing our natural spaces, and the consequences are obvious. It's reflected in our dramatic loss of biodiversity and increased extinction rates. The stats show that now is the time to act, and our work is cut out for us, but there is momentum and hope to increase our national protected areas. So this is an example of the momentum that we're seeing. The Biden administration just less than 2 months ago has shown that they stand with us on making conservation a national priority through an executive order that sets 30 by 30 as a target. So now is the time to act. And with this legislative support, this is a winnable campaign. And to achieve this, we need to motivate and mobilize a vocal and diverse group of advocates to push for national, state, and local level political action. And we know that having our political figures, the people that represent us, establish targets is not enough. So we've been working to make it a political imperative for these leaders to enact 30 by 30 related policies and laws that successfully conserve nature for future generations and harness the power of nature to be a solution to climate change. So I will tell you a bit about how we're doing this with our tactics and strategy, but first I want to share more about why we're focusing our efforts here in beautiful Colorado. So Colorado represents an outdoor mecca for our nation. We have world-class recreation opportunities and gorgeous landscapes and beautiful waters, but globally we lose about a football field's worth of nature every 30 seconds. It's a scary stat. And Colorado isn't isolated from this. In the last 2 decades alone, our state has lost over 1,000 square miles of natural lands to development, and we're actually losing natural spaces at a quicker rate than we protect them. And stories of natural losses just become more and more frequent in our communities, and the impacts are impossible to ignore. If anyone was here this summer, the sun disappeared for days on end as we experienced the largest wildfire in Colorado's recorded history. And I personally don't want these record-breaking statistics and tragic losses that we're seeing to become a part of our state's identity. And I don't think any other Coloradan does. So there's a lot at stake, which is motivation and why it's more apparent than ever that we cannot continue on this trajectory. So this is where protecting 30 by 30 comes into play. And we need the collective effort from folks all along the Front Range who need to work together with our leaders to fulfill our goals. And our areas are so populated that, the onus is on us to protect the spaces that we travel to. Thousands of members of our communities, whether metro or bordering wilderness areas, travel to the hills and the mountains each weekend to recreate. And given the endless opportunities that we have to experience them, such as climbing, hunting, fishing, hiking, and my favorite, skiing, it's really on us to take action. And these are just a few of the reasons why the Wilderness Society is working to engage with communities like Broomfield to build a team that's ready to jump on any opportunity to advance our campaign from a target into a reality. And the Colorado Outdoor Recreation and Economy Act, or the CORE Act, represents one of the best and most relevant examples of an opportunity like this. So the CORE Act would protect parts of the Continental Divide, the Thompson Divide, the San Juan Mountain landscapes, and more. So 73,000 acres of the total 400,000 acres that would be protected by this piece of legislation will be designated as new wilderness across Colorado. And these designations would protect habitat and migration corridors for bighorn sheep, moose, lynx, black bears, and elk, And it would also establish the first National Historic Landscape at Camp Hale, which is in the White River National Forest. So this act has been introduced in the Senate, in Congress 3 different times by Senators Michael Bennet, Hickenlooper, and Representative Neguse. But it died on the Senate floor 2 times over the last few years. And it recently passed in the House, and we are eagerly waiting for it to be reintroduced in Senate. So just to summarize the CORE Act, it would protect roughly 400,000 acres and serve as an important down payment on Colorado's 30 by 30 conservation goals and overall international 30 by 30 efforts. And now is the time to act on this. So how are we going to make this happen? So this is a little bit about our campaign tactics. The work that we've accomplished on the ground or on our computers this year has been centered around putting pressure on our state senators to show them where their constituents stand. And these leaders have shown us that they're conservation champions, but we need to secure Senator Bennet and Hickenlooper's support so that they know people care about this long after the fanfare from Biden's executive order dies down. So over the last few months, we have been driving in calls to our targets' offices. We've submitted and published letters to the editor and op-eds from community leaders and citizens. And we've been posting on social media to generate buzz around our hashtag Protect30by30. And Patty, this might excite you. We're working to build a coalition of businesses to show them that there is economic incentive to ramp up conservation in Colorado. And we're also working to include relevant perspectives, including BIPOC voices, businessmen, sportsmen, outdoor recreation folks, and others in this conversation. And also in our virtual world, we've been hosting online events and meetings to educate people about our campaign and ways to get involved. So tonight, everyone can get involved. On the right side of this slide, you can see information about how to make an effective social media post for 30 by 30. So you can all take the next few minutes if you'd like. I'll leave the slide up to help increase our visibility. So we call them social media storms, and this is when multiple people post similar content. And by content, I mean hashtags or language all at the same time. These storms don't go unnoticed by legislators, staff. So it's really powerful to use the hashtag, and to take it a step further, you can also tag our senators. So you can make these posts on Twitter or Facebook or Instagram or any other platforms that you use. Snapchat is a big one. And if anyone has a TikTok, that would be incredible. But you need to make a video for TikTok. So it might be difficult. So yeah, everyone can make posts now. And while you do that, I can tell you about an upcoming event. And then I'll open up the floor for questions. So this Thursday, we're hosting a really exciting event. It's at 6:30, and I want to invite everyone to come and join us. It will be a listening session with Representative Joe Neguse. He will join us on Zoom, and Front Range citizens can have the opportunity to share why conservation matters to you. So it's all centered around 30 by 30. And he will share a little bit about local and state and federal conservation efforts that he's been involved in throughout his life. And then he will listen to testimonials and personal stories from citizens. And we're asking people to share why they care about conservation and specific areas that they think are either worthy of protecting or thankful that these areas are protected. And there's also questions that you could ask. So we spent the last few weeks collecting testimonials from students and hikers and grandparents and mountain bikers and people all over the Front Range. So I would love for you all to have a voice in this conversation that we're having on Thursday, and be able to represent other groups. So I can share links in the chat to RSVP for the listening session. So to reiterate, it's Thursday, April 1st at 6:30, and it'll go until 7:30. And if you cannot make it, you can still submit your own testimonial, just a few sentences on why you support protecting nature and if there are any areas that matter to you. And you can also include a photo of those areas, because we will deliver these to our elected officials just to show them that this is something people care about. So I can go to the next slide, but you can just shout out if you want me to keep this social media up, or I can go back to it. So just let me know.
So this is also called the CORE Act, right? The 30 by 30?
Yeah, so the CORE Act is like a part of achieving 30 by 30. And if you want to make a post about the CORE Act, that would be great too. But yeah, so this is my last slide, details about our upcoming event. It's a really cool way to make your voice heard, and it will be our first event with an elected official. So it's a really exciting opportunity. Last week, we had an event with a National Geographic explorer, and thank you, Brianna, for sending that out in your newsletter. So if anyone attended that, it will be pretty different. This will be very interactive. It'll be more of a conversation and a discussion, but we had a really cool event last week. So I encourage everyone to get involved and stay posted on what happens next. And I'll share my contact information in the chat, but if anyone has any questions, feel free to ask.
Can you go back to the, oh, sorry, Craig. I think
No problem. Hey, Sonia, is the Wilderness Society doing anything with the Line 3 in Minnesota and opposition to that?
So most of our efforts have been out west in the 11 Western states, because there's more public land out here, which is a better opportunity to achieve our goals. I can follow up with you and look into that, but I'm pretty sure that we are not.
Okay. Yeah, that's just it's a huge indigenous people's issue. Enbridge is trying to build a pipeline through a lot of sacred land and directly underneath the headwaters of the Mississippi River. So it's a big one.
Wow. Okay, I'm writing this down. Thank you, Craig. I'll definitely look into that.
Thank you, Sonia. And I'll copy all this information into the follow-up email that I send, so people can do this when they get that email, if they weren't able to do it right now. Any other questions for Sonia? All right, well, thank you so much for taking the time, Sonia. Or Patty, did you have one?
So how big of a percent is the CORE Act? I mean, how does it relate to the CORE Act?
So right now, about 12% of Colorado is protected. And by protected, we mean free from development and urbanization and fossil fuel extraction. So the CORE Act would bump us up a significant percentage if it goes through, because so much of the land that will be protected is not designated as wilderness now, and it's open for development. So if we can get this to pass the entirety of Congress, then it would help us just advance the 30 by 30 goals to achieve 30%.
Great. Thank you so much, Sonia.
Yeah, thank
All
you.
right. We'll move on to our last speaker here. We have Rosie Briggs with EcoCycle to tell us about some current legislation going on right now, actually. So Rosie, go ahead and take it away.
All right. Hi, guys. I'm Rosie from EcoCycle. EcoCycle is the local recycler for Boulder County and some of Broomfield, and we started recycling in Colorado. We do a whole lot of work with reduction and redesigning and composting and all the other stuff that goes along with it. Just as a quick intro to who we are, I will go ahead and share my screen, talk about plastics. My favorite. Plastics are my least favorite, but I like talking about them. Okay. Cool. Is that the first slide? Great. All right. So I'll start just like with laying out the problem. I feel like all of you guys are already concerned with plastics. I don't feel like we have any plastics fans here, but I will just talk about kind of just some context for this bill and this legislation and the problem. So plastic production has exploded from 2 million tons annually, which was in 1950 when it kind of took off, to more than 440 million tons in 2015, which was by now a while ago. It's expected to quadruple in the next 30 years. So that's too much. We've created 8.3 billion with a B metric tons of plastic, of which 6.3 billion metric tons is now plastic waste in our oceans, littering landscapes, and floating in our rivers or sitting in our landfills. So it's not even that we're wasting it and burying it in a landfill, it's just getting into the environment all the time, every day. We've only recycled 9% of the plastic that has ever been produced. So yeah, over here on the left, you see the little box that says only 9%. And we have heard that stat a lot lately that's coming out. And we're like, yeah, as recyclers, we want that to come out because it's not that you are doing a bad job as a recycler. It's not that we are doing a bad job as your recycler. It's that the plastics industry is just putting out all this plastic crap that can't be recycled. There's no viable way to recycle it. So it's not a failure on recycling's part, it's a failure on plastic's part. So if we don't break this trend that I've just laid out, by 2050, there will be more plastic in the ocean than fish by weight, which is not a pretty picture. Excuse me, I just got so excited about these stats. So yeah, ExxonMobil it's not that like we're just realizing that it's a problem. The plastics industry has known it's a problem, and they are working actively to ramp up production rather than get on board with the solution. So for example, ExxonMobil is currently planning to invest 165 billion on expanding existing or building new petrochemical facilities in the US, as many as 264 new facilities. So that means more fracking. Because they're not buying back their recycled plastic, they're just making new plastics out of new oil and gas, which they frack from the ground. So more burning of oil and gas to make plastic, more greenhouse gases and dirty air and water, endangering the lives of residents living in plastic manufacturing communities. So all of that is to say that we have to turn off the tap. That's the metaphor that we use for plastic production. Our house is filling up with water because all the taps are on full force. And you don't, if that was happening to you, you wouldn't just like bail water out the window. You would turn off the tap first thing. So that's what we need to do. And since this project is infrastructural, it's a systemic problem. It's not just enough for all of us to like reduce our plastic use, which we should too, but we have to have a systemic approach to the systemic problem. So that's what we're going to talk about with this legislative action. So the first thing that we need to know about when we talk about plastic legislation is preemption. So one of the challenges that we face in Colorado and in many other states as well is that Colorado communities can't legally ban the use of plastics because of this statute right here that was passed in '93. So it specifically preempts local governments from restricting plastics packaging or plastics in general, like resin categories. So this has created tension between local control and state control in terms of plastics pollution. So yeah, so it says no unit of government shall require or prohibit the use or sale of specific types of plastic materials or products, or restrict or mandate containers, packaging, or labeling for any consumer product. So what it's saying is that there's a ban on bans. You can't, even if everyone in City of Boulder decided that we wanted to ban styrofoam, we couldn't. even if it was 100% agreed upon across the board. We don't have the ability to do that, and it's because the plastics and oil and gas industry specifically worked to pass this piece of legislation. It's not that it was an oversight, they lobbied for it. And it's really hard to overturn, it turns out. So even though there are a lot of plastics that we could easily get rid of, and people would generally agree that we should get rid of them, this preemption is standing in our way. And of course, it's harder to pass things on a statewide level than a local level. So that has been a significant roadblock so far. Yes, okay, that's all I wanted to say there. Okay, so then yeah, Colorado is not alone. You can see that there are 13 other states with similar preemption language in their legislature. So again, that was on the part of the actual lobbying power of plastics and oil and gas. They did that on purpose. They do it with things like fracking and, you know, pesticides has the same thing, a lot of preemption all over states where these lobbying industries are like sneaking it in to other laws. They're like writing it in, and then it's really hard to undo once it's done. So here we are. All right, so you might look at this and be like, I feel like I know a city or a community within Colorado that has banned plastics. And you are right, there are now 8 communities within Colorado with a plastic bag ban, and there hasn't been a legal challenge yet. So basically they can kind of like do it in a kind of sneaky, like in a just kind of like clandestine way, but the plastics industry can challenge it. Like they can be like, hey, Aspen just passed a plastic bag ban and that's not allowed according to the preemption. And then in that case, they would have to go to court and probably overturn it. So all of the communities that have done it have been kind of like these smaller communities. And if like Denver were to do it, then for sure it would be challenged. So that's kind of the thing, is you can kind of do it as long as they're not really paying attention. So yeah, so last year we had a bill, SB 20, that was going to remove the statewide preemption and give back communities their local control of plastic pollution, but the bill died in committee by 1 vote. So in addition to the preemption bill, we had 2 other plastic related bills. So one was 1162 in the House, and it was a statewide ban on polystyrene. So when we say polystyrene, we all think of it as styrofoam, but styrofoam is like a bigger thing. Polystyrene is that plastic, the actual name of the plastic, that number 6. So yeah, it was a statewide ban on polystyrene takeout containers and cups starting in 2022. And we supported this bill because polystyrene is the worst of the worst. It's so toxic, it contains known carcinogens. It is the #1 most polluted plastic, littered plastic. And it breaks apart into microplastics super easily. And then the other one, which was 1163, banned plastic bags starting in 2022, both on a statewide level, sets a fee on a paper bag to discourage the switch from plastic to paper, because paper is also not the best because it's still single use and it's really has a lot of impacts upstream. And then it banned stirrers, like the thing you stir your coffee with, and then required straws upon request, so you wouldn't just automatically get them. And then both bills died on the calendar last year because of COVID, so it just didn't get pushed through. And they were not deemed bills that the legislature felt they had to deal with during the crisis. So both of these did not also move forward. Okay, and so yeah, this year we're really excited to announce that we are working on one comprehensive bill, the Plastic Pollution Reduction Act, and it's sponsored by Representative Cutter, Valdez, and Representatives Cutter and Valdez, and Senator Gonzalez. So the bill will kind of combine those 3 bills from last year. So removing preemption, which I actually heard like 2 hours ago that part might have to get taken out in order for it to move forward. So I'll keep you posted on that. That was a really big one for us, but hopefully it stays in, I don't know. But the bill as it is being presented now includes preemption, getting rid of preemption, banning plastic bags, again, of course, on a state level. So the plastic bag ban could still move forward even with the preemption in place. Charging a 10-cent fee on paper bags, and banning polystyrene food containers and cups. So we decided to combine the 3 bills into one to kind of simplify our messaging there and make it a little more, single punch. And so we have a plastic pollution crisis and we have a solution, which is this act. So last year, legislators were picking and choosing which bill they wanted to support, rather than like supporting all of them. So this year we wanted to just give them one that they could support. And we feel like all 3 of these components are really important. Yeah, so we have the momentum and support from many of the legislators, as well as 200 plus small businesses in Pueblo, Denver, Durango, Buena Vista. Over 400 Coloradans have participated in lobby days in 2020, even though we had to do them virtual, which is great. Nearly 41,000 petitions from Coloradans across the state have been petition signatures have been gathered by Environment Colorado and COPERG in support of regulating these single-use plastics. Other states have already done this. So a lot, like we're not creating the wheel here. Like we're not really pushing the envelope, honestly, here in Colorado, even though, as we've talked about, Colorado should be a really environmentally friendly place. But so there's been single-use plastic legislation, single-use plastic bag legislation in California, Connecticut, Delaware, Hawaii, Maine, New York, Oregon, Vermont, Washington, and then single-use bags, so including paper in New Jersey. That was a recent one. And then styrofoam has been tackled by Maine, Maryland, New Jersey, New York, Baltimore, San Diego, like at the city level as well. So again, it's not like we're like being all wild here. We just, all of us should have done this, and we honestly should do it at a federal level as well. Okay, so EPR is
can I just, this is the same as 350, the 350 bill, right?
Yeah.
The last one, the last slide you had?
Yes.
Okay, are you taking questions at the end, or are you taking questions about that issue now?
This is my last slide. And then
oh, okay, okay.
All right. So I just wanted to talk about EPR lastly. So EPR stands for Extended Producer Responsibility. And it's an exciting thing to look at as we move forward in 2021 and beyond. So Colorado is becoming poised to pass some extended producer responsibility policies or legislation. So SB 55, which is the end market bill, passed this year, and it has a study to look at different models for EPR. And then we're already in the process of creating recommendations and then including stakeholders and then actually implementing these EPR policies. And then I also just learned about this today. The National Break Free from Plastic Pollution Act has been updated from 2021, and this is monumental national legislation designed to reduce plastic and packaging waste and transform the recycling system. And it includes a lot of extended producer responsibility aspects. And so, so basically there would be a national EPR program for packaging and paper products. And so there'd be a nationwide container deposit requirement, which is something that we've been talking about for a long time, a carry-out bag fee, bans on some single-use plastic products, standardized product labeling for recycling and disposal, which is a big thing, a temporary pause on the construction of new plastics facilities and incinerators, and then regulations on exports of recyclable materials, which is something we've been talking about a lot since the Chinese national sword a few years ago. So the Alliance for Mission-Based Recyclers, which is the alliance that EcoCycle is a part of, is supportive of this. And it's a great time to talk about federal policy. Like I was saying, like we have this patchwork of states that have preemption, and some states have policies and some don't. And it's a good time to talk about federal stuff. So I'll put this link in the chat as soon as I stop sharing my screen so that you can check out the National Break Free from Plastic Pollution Act. And there's like a whole thing for you to write you can read about it, you can write your legislator. Exciting stuff. And then lastly, so I sent Brianna the letter. EcoCycle has like a form that you can fill out to contact your legislator about the Plastic Pollution Reduction Act. And So she'll send that out, and then you can, if you want to be an eco leader with me and just be involved with EcoCycle and stuff like that, you can email me. And then you can also email our legislative director if you would like to get updates on taking action legislatively. So we, EcoCycle is not like the organization that, you know, works on this bill and the bills I've been talking about. We work with Recycle Colorado and CoPerg for the most part, but also like Environment Colorado 350, a lot of the different partners that have been mentioned tonight. So that is my presentation. Thoughts, questions?
Thank you, Rosie. Yeah, any questions?
When you were referring to Brianna just now, were you talking, which Brianna were you talking about?
That's me. I'm Brianna. I know it says Sustainable Broomfield, but I'm going to send out a follow-up email with all the links and stuff that we discussed today. So if you want to contact any of our speakers, you should be able to through that email. It should come out in the next day or two.
Well, we met with Brianna Titone, the representative, last week, and she had an idea to tax plastic bottles and then use the fund. Of course, these politicians, they all want to see. I've been going to the Capitol a lot where I say I'm worried about the water supply and drought because of climate, you know, and because they're getting rain instead of snow, and our whole water system is designed around snow. And that's my background is civil engineering, doing water projects and stuff. And so they all want to build their way out of the crisis. You know, they all want to build these water projects. Well, that's just going to cause more environmental hit, you know. So what the fee would be on plastic bottles would be used for is in the air. I would like to use it to help people pay, give the money back to people and help them pay for xeriscape for their lawns. But that was one thing that was discussed with Titone. But anyway, she likes the idea of taxing plastic bottles, but she was only talking about like 1 cent, which is, it's so low that it doesn't really incentivize people's behaviors, it seems. And so that was my question, was about the 10-cent stuff and some of that stuff. It seems so low that I fear that it might not incentivize people. Did you have any comments about that?
Yeah, so there, we haven't done legislation on, you know, plastic bottles here. We would love to. We would be all about that. Again, like talking about even, you know, a bottle bill would be, you know, like where you return it and get money back, is always something that we push. But so in terms of like 25 cents, 10 cents, that kind of thing, I would point to single-use bags. So we have passed a lot of those policies in the Front Range. Boulder has a 10-cent single-use bag tax. Louisville just passed a 25-cent this past fall. So there's a lot of, I can actually send it to you if you want. There's a lot of research that shows the you know, effects of, you know, even a 10-cent and 25-cent fee. So there's like, first of all, how much money is collected when that is paid, but then second of all, how much actual behavior is changed based on avoiding that fee, because that's the beauty of, you know, you can just avoid that thing instead. So I can send you those studies if you'd like. I would also say that our first big legislation that we passed 2 years ago was to put just like a little fee on landfill tipping existing fees. So in the Front Range, one of the reasons that we're so bad at recycling in Colorado as compared to the rest of the nation is because we have all this landfill space, so it's just super cheap. So we just put like a little cap, like a little fee on every ton dumped in the Front Range. And then we put that in like a big pot of money that you can apply for grants for. And it, I mean, like it sounds like a very, it was like $1 increasing to $3 per ton, but like there are thousands and thousands of dollars that communities have already used to do programming and education and stuff like that. So I think, yeah, I think that we have to kind of walk the line between having it be enough to be effective, but then also making sure that we're not, you know, impacting low-income folks and making it a regressive policy. And I really like your idea about xeriscaping and how those two things would connect.
Awesome. Christina, did you have a question? maybe not. All right, does anyone else have any questions for Rosie?
I just had a quick question, Rosie. What you mentioned that paper bags affect the upstream. I know that if they're not recycled well, then it wouldn't be really a great impact on the environment of throwing away that paper. But I just wanted to know what the effects of the paper bags upstream were.
Yeah. So yeah, it does depend on whether it is post-consumer recycled paper that made that bag, or it's virgin paper. But yeah, the main thing is just like plastic bags have less of an impact upstream, but have a big impact downstream because they never go away, and they're turning into microplastics, clogging the waterways, etc., killing turtles. Paper bags are fine downstream because you can recycle them, you could compost them, even if they get littered, they break down. But upstream, making them out of trees, first of all, has a huge water impact. And then, but it actually does have a bigger oil impact than making a plastic bag, just because of the forestry process, and then, getting the paper bags to us. So yeah, it's kind of like an upstream downstream thing where we're like, anytime we talk about plastic bags, we always talk about paper bags too, because we're like, please don't just switch over. The thing is single use in general. So even if you are making it, even if you do have a post-consumer recycled paper bag, the bottom line is that it's single use, and it never makes sense.
Okay, gotcha. Thanks for that.
Sorry, Liz.
Yeah.
I was also gonna put the link to the second thing that I talked about, the Break Free from Plastic Pollution Act, and you can read about it in this link that I just posted. And I can, I'll look for the bottle deposit stuff that I just talked about too.
Yeah, that'd be great if we could get a copy of any of those studies with the bottle.
Any ideas?
So, Rosie, this is Sheila. What more can we do to encourage people to use the canvas bags for grocery shopping? And encourage people to pull some of their vegetables, not all of them, and store them in their carts without putting them in a single-use smaller plastic bag.
Yeah, I think, leading by example is great. I think talking to your grocery store is also good. Like a bunch of eco leaders talk to natural grocers, for example, and like other people, not just EcoCycle people, about how they have no checkout bag available, which is awesome. But then they do have all these produce bags. So they were like, oh, well, we'll hide them. We'll like talk about them at checkout and how you can avoid them. And then in the meantime, we'll have a compostable one instead. So like even the store, like, because people just do what's in front of them. So even if, you talk to the store about things like that. The other thing, a cool thing that I have been talking about lately, my cat is like running around, is that there's like a new thing now where, those little libraries that are showing up in different neighborhoods. There's a thing like that with reusable bags. Because I think like those of us who use reusable bags have like 90, and you don't use all of them all the time. So different communities are setting up like the little bag libraries so that if you forget yours, you can you can borrow it.
That's great. Yeah.
I mean, I personally always just talk to people all the time when I'm shopping. Like, I think like
we know about that. We know about you.
I think we can all do that. I mean, I think it's like there's a peer-to-peer thing, and then there's like a structural, systemic approach, and both.
Right. Yeah. Also, maybe I'm thinking these are the kinds of things that I sometimes give for birthday gifts or Christmas gifts, or just a gift when I haven't seen somebody in a while. That and that wax paper, whatever that is, beeswax, to replace the saran wrap. Just to encourage, no obligation, but thought you might enjoy this kind of thing. Absolutely. Yeah, but if you've got any other ideas, let us know. We're pretty out there, outgoing, social. We can do some of what you do.
You guys are totally doing it. I mean, yeah, Brianna, like Sustainable Broomfield has your tote bags and stuff.
Yeah.
There's no wrong answer.
It'd be really cool if they could have like a rent a bag like box at the grocery store. And so you just like, you're charged the fee. And then like when you bring it back and return it, you get like your money back or something, you know, like I don't know. I think
like
they have like a rental system like that for other things, but I can't think of what one of those might be at this point, but.
That's a
Yeah,
great
or
idea too.
Yeah. Do you see, I think we talked about this before too, Rosie, where if people have extra bags, they can donate them. You know, maybe they have a bin in the store and they can donate some of their reusable bags in there. I know we talked about that post-COVID and then everything just kind of shut down and nobody wanted to use them for a while.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think that's the same. Yeah, like library donation bit. I mean, yeah, it's kind of, I
Yeah,
mean,
like a book dropper. Yeah, bag dropper.
yeah. Yeah, I think COVID, especially at the beginning when we were more concerned about surfaces than like air, there was a setback for reusables. But like even, you know, back in like, I think it was April, if not March, EcoCycle put out a thing saying like plastics is wrong and like it's not safer because there's actual science. We're not just saying that. And I think now people are a little more amenable to like touching. I don't think that's like as big of a thing now. But I think, yeah, any opportunity for like sharing economy for reusables is the way to go, whether we're talking about, you know, bags or anything, really anything else. Like they also have little libraries for like mugs. That's another thing.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
Coffee shops. Yes.
Yeah.
Very cool. Well, thank you so much, Rosie, for giving us all that information. And yeah, we'll have all the links in the follow-up email. One other thing, if you didn't see it at the very top of the chat from Catherine Drumheller, she said that the state of Colorado is taking comments on the draft GHG inventory report through Wednesday this week. So there's a link in case you want to like look through it and comment on it. And I'll try to include that in the email as well. I'm hoping to get that out tomorrow so people have a chance to participate in these things that are coming up quickly. So thank you everyone for coming tonight. Do we have any other final questions from anybody?
Is the state attempting to do an inventory of what quantity is coming from each source of the greenhouse gases?
Yes, that is basically what the whole inventory is about. So yeah, I would suggest you check out that link at the top of the chat there and you can read all about it. It's a very scientific paper. It's not a fun read, I would say, but you can probably skim through it and get an overall idea of what they're talking about. And it's all about how they're measuring all the greenhouse gas emissions and how they want to improve their measuring from what they've been doing so far.
No, okay. Thank you so much for that.
Yep, you're welcome. All right. Anything else from anybody? All right. Well, thank you guys so much for coming tonight and have a wonderful rest of your week.
Thanks, Brianna.
See you guys later.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.